As Rangers prepare to host Panathinaikos on Tuesday, 22nd of July, we've got some pundits in the media talking about their pre-season so far. Welcome back to Fog Football. I say their pre-season so far. I know Middlesbrough is in the middle of the Panathinaikos games, but for me, I think once you begin the season against Panathinaikos, pre-season is a thing of the past. I'm undoubtedly right. You can't deny it. That is a friendly game against Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough are bringing a lot of fans, but it's a friendly game. But for me, the 22nd of July, that is when the competitive season starts for Rangers, and there is no more excuses. All the players have been announced for the Champions League squad yesterday. We know what the squad is. We know who's not in the squad, the Propers, the Yilmazes, the Matondos, etc, etc. We know who's in. Champions League qualifiers, it's make or break. None of this behind closed doors pish. So, what did Kris Boyd have to say about this? So, right. This was the headline for Kris Boyd. I fear Russell Martin has missed a trick in pre-season and there's danger Rangers won't be prepared for Panathinaikos. He understands why he didn't organise a pre-season schedule like Celtic though. Now, if you're a member of the Sun Club, you would have seen this full article / video for Kris Boyd. But guess what, folks? I'm not a member of the Sun Club. You would have to pay £1.99 to be a member of that. And I tell you what, I'd rather be caught dead than join the Sun Club for $1.99. But you know what? From a few short sentences there, I understand what Boyd's going at there. Because, right, he says there's a danger they won't be prepared for Panathinaikos, and I understand that because I've kind of been saying that same thing regarding the preparation for this match. Because what's happened is you had one game against Bruges, you had a game against Barnsley, you had a game against Dunfermline, and that's pretty much it. Oh, there was a game against TNS, which we reportedly lost 1-0, and then TNS went on to lose against, what's that team called, like Skadoopi for North Macedonia or whatever. It doesn't feel like the most prepared pre-season we could have had, but as Boyd goes on to say, he understands why he didn't organise a pre-season schedule like Celtic. Celtic, we know, they took on Sporting Lisbon, they played Cork City, they lost against Estrella, they're going to Italy in some tournament against Como, Ajax, and I can't recall the other team, but Celtic are playing a lot more pre-season games. But the problem is, if Rangers wanted to play as many pre-season games as Celtic, you would have had to cram them all in before this game. And as you've seen against Dunfermline in that 4-1 game, well, I say as you've seen, there was no footage yet, but we heard, Tilo Asgard picked up a knock, and I think once you start putting the players too much through their paces and firing too many players in to matches, you run the risk of getting a lot of these guys injured, and again, you have to get them up to speed, and I totally understand that, but I understand why Russell Martin didn't want to go for the Celtic approach. There was a lot of games. Celtic, yeah, the season begins at the start of August for them, but for us, it's a couple of weeks before. It's like 10 days before, 10 days before our season begins. Which in football, it's massive in pre-season, man. That's why we've seen, I think, in so many years where a few teams that actually start their season in the Premier Sports Cup start the season well, and it's no surprise to me that Aberdeen last season done a great job, where they won all their games in the Premier Sports Cup and then they went on that fantastic run until their arse folded at Hampden when they lost to Celtic. But nonetheless, it was still a fantastic start to the season, and I think you can look back at the Premier Sports run to justify that. Obviously, Rangers not in the Premier Sports group stage or whatever, but I think there's advantages to take for this Champions League period. But leave it down below. Do you believe that Russell Martin missed a trick in pre-season? But according to Pat Nevin, Rangers fans could get very angry. Right, so let's dive into it. He says, and I quote, "Am I thinking Rangers are going to win the title? No, not yet, because Celtic have got so many advantages over Rangers at the moment. But with Russell, what will be intriguing, and the thing I'm most interested in, is the style. Russell played a certain style, which is lovely as long as you're winning. And then you're not winning. Fans get very angry about it. And Rangers fans will get angry very quickly if it's not winning. They'll get really angry with our system because it looks dull and it looks predictable, but it's very considered. We all know what it is. We've watched it. It didn't work in the Premier League, but it did work before. But the expectation is at Rangers, you don't have to keep doing the process when you're 2-0 down to Falkirk." End of quote. Right. I understand what he's going for here, Big Pat, right? But my problem with it is, in the Premier League, in terms of quality, Southampton were one of the bottom 3 teams. Now, they finished last, right? So, whether or not you think they are truly the worst team in the Premier League, or you think Russell Martin's tactics made them finish a lot lower than what they actually should have finished, right? Regardless of what you think, we're the second best team. As much as I want to say we're first, we're not, right? We're not. We're the second best team right here, right now. We are clear of the other 10, and Celtic are in front of us. So, theoretically, right, 10 out of the 11 games, obviously, we play teams 4 times, a split, yada, yada, yada. But theoretically, 10 out of the 11 times, this style should work. This Russell Martin style. Right? Because it worked in the Championship for him. But then he could struggle against Celtic. But then we've seen an occasion when he took on better teams in the Premier League, and you'd be lying to say like the gap between Southampton and Man City is the same as us and above, right? Of course it's not. We're much closer. Look at the last games last season. I shouldn't even need to reiterate that. But the reality is it'd be very ignorant to sit here and turn around and say, well, we're going to 100% every day of the week under Russell Martin's style beat the rest of the teams in this league. Because, it's very easy, these pundits saying theoretically that you should be beating the 10 out of 11 teams, as I pointed out earlier. But the reality is, it's not going to happen like that. You're going to come unstuck playing this style of football sometimes, and it's going to be pretty telling when we are 2-0 into Falkirk, when we are losing games, if this team's going to have the mentality, the players that have been brought in to play a style of football. It's one thing being brought in to play a style of football, but it's another thing being brought in to have the mentality to come from behind getting beat. Because that's the problem, I do believe, with signing a lot of players from England, like the lower English leagues. A lot of them aren't really used to winning. Again, Joe Rothwell, he's off the back of a season where his team get promoted in Leeds United. But again, it's not like every signing you make has to come from a team that's winning. But you could argue that over the last bunch of years, man, we've signed guys that have not had the right mentality. Problem is, with this style of play, we don't really know. There's a lot of unknowns about Russell Martin and going forward with him right here, right now. And we're not going to really find out until we play Panathinaikos twice, till we get into the league, till we get into cup matches. So it's all very intriguing, but to me, the style of play, not that it's irrelevant, to me it's all about the mentality. The style of play might work. We could be looking at a situation where 9 times out of 10, this style of play blows teams away. But the reality is, I don't care about the style of play. I would rather play pish and win than play good and lose. So if we play great and win 9 out of 10, but we lose the 1 out of 10 game, I'd much rather play pish 10 out of 10, but win all of them. So it'll be interesting to see if Russell Martin can juggle a style with a mentality. And I think if he can, he'll be relatively successful. But I'm not going to shy away from it. I didn't want this guy. I literally said back in May, this guy cannot become Rangers manager. But I've had to accept it, haven't I? I think he said some of the right things, as you would expect him to say. I think some players that we've signed have been decent. I do believe we need a little bit more in that department. But like I've said before, I'm going to back Russell Martin until I can't back him no more. And as we sit here on the 19th of July, as I record this, there's nothing to suggest that I can't back the guy. Now, we could sit on the 19th of August, we could sit on the 19th of September, the 19th of December, the 19th of March. Things will look very different across all of these months. Hopefully, come May, there's silverware and trophies to be talking about, and progression and a true direction, rather than down to the depths of hell. Because I feel like the last couple of seasons, man, it's been like that. It's been brutal. And the consolation that I've got for people that might be worried about Martin, I can't see it being as bad as last year. Alright? So hopefully that's alright. But anyway, leave your thoughts down below. What do you think of the style of play? Do you think it's a case of a style of play being great, or do you think you need to balance the two of them? For me, it's all about winning. You need to win games of football, and it's unfair to write off the rest of the teams in the league, because look at last season. Our squad on paper, transfer fees, etc., wages, should smoke every other team in the league apart from Celtic. But guess what, folks? It wasn't the Celtic games that cost us the league last year. It was the draws against Dundee, losing a bunch of games against St Mirren, losing and dropping points against Hibs, dropping points to Aberdeen, losing and drawing to Motherwell, etc., etc., losing to Kelly. That's what's cost us winning the league, not the Old Firm games. Kind of a flip on the season before, but yeah, got to start winning games of football. But tell you what, man, I'm buzzing. A few short days away for the season beginning, but later on today, of course, what do we have? Some Premier Sports Cup action. Looking forward to it. Till next time, peace.